Hello, my name is Carmen Flores, and I will be going through and explaining really what creates an effective presentation when working with adult learners. To start off, I do want to go over really go over what andragogy is. So andragogy is really in the manner in which adults learn. So as opposed to pedagogy, which is the way that children learn, there is a different perspective and there's a different approach to how adult learners are able to learn best. No, Malcolm Knowles has five assumptions for us as far as to what is needed for an adult learner to be able to gain the best out of their educational experience. One of them is self-concept. So self-concept really is knowing that we are, as adults, we are more self-dependent. We do not need to be told as to what we need to go out and learn and explore. Really, we are aware of what our needs are, and as far as education and knowledge, and we are more self-oriented in that manner. A second assumption is adult learner experience. So as adults, we come in already with experiences that we've already built upon, that we've already created through life, right? Unlike children whose experiences need to be given examples to or which need to be built upon. Adults do come already with a plethora of experiences, and that should be taken into consideration when you're working with adults. What past experiences do they have with the topic at hand? You don't want to have a presentation where you're starting from, entry level basics, but really the people you're presenting to are much further ahead from that. So again, knowing that adults, learners, you have to take their experience into consideration. The assumption number three is the readiness to learn. As we become older and more mature, we become more oriented as far as to what the developmental tasks are, right? Meaning, how can I apply this knowledge, this immediate knowledge? How can this be used into application immediately? For children, really, it's more of a delayed process, right? When you will use this, you will use this when. However, for adults is, how can I use this right away? How can I use this content and immediately put it into application? So those are things that you also have to take into consideration when you are presenting to adults. Is the content relevant to their needs at the moment? So yes. And number four, orientation to learning. So really, again, going back to as adults, really, and as we mature with our experiences and what we need. Again, it's that not the postpone of application, but really it's the immediate, right? How can I use this now? How can I be able to shift what I'm learning into my classroom immediately? And then lastly, we have the motivation to learn. Really, as adults, we are seeking new ways to build upon what we have and how that knowledge will further extend our capacity or further help us to reach the goals that we need. So those would be the five assumptions based from Malcolm Knowles. Now, some of the things for using these right here, really, again, when we're delivering a presentation, a professional development, is really just making sure that you take those into consideration, right? When you're putting that PowerPoint or Google slide, whatever it may be, when you're putting that together, making sure that you're taking all of those into factor so that your content is going to be relevant to what that learner is needing at that moment. Okay. And then what are some of the best practices when creating and delivering effective presentation to adult learners? So some of those would be how to make an effective, PowerPoint, or how to create a Google slide presentation, something that's going to capture and captivate adults. So as adults, we don't really need a whole bunch of fluff, right? We need is the content. Give me the content, give me the information that is needed, and then allow me to continue to learn. So some of those things would be things like, for example, you select a single font, right? You don't need to create all kinds of slides with different fonts and fancy styles. Really, an effective presentation should have no more than 3 to 4 different fonts throughout the entire presentation. Another thing that should be kept into consideration is that when you are putting together a presentation is to make sure that your font is no smaller than 24 points, right? Because you want to make sure that the audience in the back is able to see everything that you're presenting just as well as the person sitting in the front. Another thing that should be taken into consideration is making sure that you are avoiding any like long sentences, right? You are not reading off of your screen. That is not for you. The presentation is not for the presenter. The presentation is merely there to highlight some of the highlights from your presentation, because really you're going to build on those. You're not sitting there reading from them. So you want to make sure that you're using short, quick, and precise words or phrases, nothing too lengthy. And then as far as explanation of why culture and ethnic, why do we need to take these into consideration when presenting? As a presenter, you want to make sure that you are aware of your audience. You want to know who it is that you are presenting to. And so therefore, doing a little bit of background work, who is it that I'm presenting to? Am I presenting, to a group of veteran teachers who maybe have more experience, and I can, bring in content that's a little bit more relevant to them? Or am I teaching to new teachers, right? First year teachers where I would need to bring in different resources. And then again, just being aware culturally, right, of what is respectful, what is something that I need to keep into consideration when I'm talking to my audience. So just really being aware of who your audience is and just being respectful with that and just knowing how to approach them. Let me see, did I miss anything? And then again, how do I eliminate bias? I think the best way that I can eliminate some of these biases, because biases exist, right? Whether we like them or not, they're there. And addressing them is the first step in diminishing them. So for example, just making sure that I am aware of biases, or that I am aware of what those are and how can I address them? How can I diminish them? What can I do to make sure that I am not, stereotyping or having prejudgment, ideas. So for me, really the best way to reduce or eliminating them is for me to be aware of what they are, and really just working, purposely with intention, working on decreasing them and really just eliminating them. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I hope that I was able to clarify a little bit on what an effective presentation for adult learners would look like. Thank you. Bye-bye.